Alright, hello again. Today, 6th graders, we're going to talk about something, more of a scary topic, called viruses. It's scary, but it's fascinating at the same time to see how these things actually work. Now, as you should be familiar with, viruses are not living organisms. So write down non-living. So they're not living organisms. These organisms act as a parasite to hosts, and we're going to get into exactly what all this stuff means right now. So when you have a virus, what it wants to do, and the only way that it actually can continue to spread, is it needs to find a host. It needs to find a host cell. So it needs to find a host cell. And so what the virus does is it goes and it lives inside the host cell as a parasite. And what parasite means is that you are living on host and causing harm. So it's not like it's just living on the host and not doing anything to it, but it's actually causing harm to the host. It's actually trying to take things outside of the host or manipulate it in a way that benefits it, but actually hurts the living host cell that it's living on. Now, all viruses, in order to continue on, they have these needs. And now, keep in mind, I'm not saying in order for viruses to live because, again, like I said, they're non-living. That's what the scientific community agrees on. There are some people that disagree, but especially for our intents and purposes, they are non-living organisms. The reason we say that they are non-living organisms is because they cannot make their own food, they cannot take in food, or produce waste. The one thing that they can do, like organisms, they can multiply, but not in the same way that we're used to. They don't work through, sexual reproduction. Now, because viruses need that host, they have different shapes. They have different shapes that help it fit onto whatever kind of cell it's trying to live off of. If you look at page 41, you can look on the right side and you can see different pictures of the different types of viruses. You have ones like this, the influenza virus. That's just pretty much a circle with those little purple spines coming out of it. You also have the tobacco mosaic virus, which just looks like a cylinder, and you can see a little bit of the RNA kind of peeking out of the top. And again, it's got that protective coating. And then you have the T4 bacteriophage. So it looks kind of like this. It looks kind of like that robot, what a lot of people are saying. Like that. It's got those little legs. So it's like a creepy little robot. Now each of these shapes help it do the best that it can, depending on what kind of host cell it's using. Now the next thing is the virus sizes. Now viruses are extremely small, very, very small. Actually, let's even go a little bit smaller. Very fine point. Small. They are tiny. They are so small that the microscopes that we're going to be using in our class, way too small. Viruses are way too small to see those. Now finally, when I get mine, I guess apparently it got stolen off the back of the truck whenever they were trying to deliver it. I don't know what happened to it, but I will eventually be getting a microscope, and when we do get the microscope, we will be able to look at little single-celled organisms. And even sometimes we'll just be able to look at little single cells. Hopefully one of these times I'll be able to show you guys a blood cell, and you can see how small the white and red blood cells are. And a virus is even smaller than that. Little spot. Little viruses that can infect it. Now that's because viruses are measured in nanometers. And if we look in our book, we can see exactly how small. It says 1 nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter. The smallest viruses are about 20 nanometers in diameter, while the largest viruses are more than 200 nanometers in diameter. And so it's extremely small. They're small even compared to some of the smallest bacteria. Now, the next thing is naming viruses. Now, because viruses are not considered organisms, scientists don't use the two-part naming system to identify them. They can be given names in a variety of ways, either where they're located, so location of where they're discovered, or even the sickness it causes. So that's why you have the polio virus, or you have the West Nile virus, because it's found in West Nile in Africa. Polio virus causes polio. Now the question is, how do viruses multiply? And this ties a lot into the structure of the virus. So you'll notice in all the pictures, the viruses, they have pretty much two parts to them. They have that outer coating, so let's say we're doing circular virus. You're looking at that influenza virus. It has that outer protein coat, and it's protected. So if you're trying to bombard it with white blood cells and stuff, it's there to help protect it. You're also going to notice that on the inside it has strands of RNA. Now RNA, think of it like a different form of DNA. It's still that same genetic material. It's a little bit different, but what it does is the building blocks of whatever it wants to make. Now what viruses will do is, say you have all these different cells. So you have all your cells, and they're all happy, they're all doing their job, they're all functioning just the way that they should. Now all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, I guess it's taking a little while. Wait, there it goes. So all of a sudden a virus enters amongst these cells. This virus goes to this first one, and what he wants to do is he wants to inject his RNA into the cell. Now you remember, these cells, they're all going to have DNA inside of them. And what the virus is going to do is it's going to put in its RNA, which will disrupt the normal processes of the DNA and tell the cell to start making new things. Those new things it's going to tell it to start making is more viruses just like itself. And so slowly it's going to start building up more and more and more and more, and eventually it's like blowing up a balloon too much, it's going to pop. What we call this is lysing. Lysing is where the cell will pop and rupture, and now all those viruses are released. So now what are they going to do? He's going to go there, 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 he's going to come over here, he's going to go inside there, and the same thing's going to happen. They're going to put in their RNA, and they're going to build up a whole bunch of new viruses, and they're going to lyse the same too, and then more and more and more and more. And this is actually how viruses spread. Now there are some restrictions to how the viruses, or well, to what the viruses can infect. It's not going to let me open that up, so I guess I'm kind of stuck here. So I guess I'll just explain what's happening, because my computer's gone nuts. Pretty much is all of these viruses, now they can only attack certain cells. The reason is because they have, where is it? If we look on page 43, each virus contains a unique surface protein. These surface proteins play an important role during the invasion of a host cell. The shape of the surface protein allows the virus to attach only to certain cells in a host. Like keys, a virus's protein fit only into specific locks or proteins on the surface of a host cell. So a particular virus can only attack one or a few types of host cells. So let's say you have your protein on here, and let's say it's shaped like a triangle. Now you have your nose cells. Let's say these are all the cells that are nose, and they have a specific lock like this. So this cell can infect the nose cells. But then let's say you have your eyes. You have the cells that make up your eyes, and they have this specific lock. Well, this virus can attack that. Now, this makes sense when you think about cold viruses, because you notice when you get a cold, the main places where you really feel the cold, like your whole body aches all over, but the main place where you feel it is you feel it in your nose and in your throat. And the reason is because of these kind of like protein locks that the cells have and that the viruses come with them. They mainly will only attack your nose and your throat, and that's what's really going to get you when you have a cold. So that's pretty much how a virus is going to try and multiply and trying to make more of itself. Now, viruses, as you know, they can be something like the common cold, where after a few days of rest and fluids you'll feel a lot better, or they can be even worse. They could turn into something like this: HIV or AIDS. They can be more deadly, and it could be a case where your body really can't fight it off. Now, the thing is, not all viruses are potentially fatal. Obviously, people aren't keeling over from the common cold all the time. And a lot of that is attributed to a vaccine. Now, vaccines, they have them for certain viruses, and they're able to give it to you so you don't have to deal with potentially deadly viruses. You get ones like this. Maybe some of you guys had these growing up, chickenpox. Now, about your age, is some of you might have never had chickenpox. The reason is because you received a vaccine that kind of gave you a dose of either dead or weak, a dead or weak version of the chickenpox. And because it's either dead or weak, your immune system can easily go in there and crush it. Now, when they do defeat that virus, they keep a memory of how that virus operated and exactly what kind of antibodies they needed to use against it. So just think of it as the right kind of bullets. They have the right kind of ammunition. They know how to defeat the enemy. He can never beat him again. Ones like HIV and AIDS, that really doesn't work. This virus is super strong, and you can't give it a dead version. You can't give it a weak version. It goes a little bit deeper into how this one attacks because your immune system just doesn't think it needs to attack this. But yeah, so that's what a vaccine can do, and that's why they, I think it's like CVS Pharmacy in certain places, you can go and you can get a vaccine at the beginning of every single flu season, and they especially tell the elderly and little kids who don't really have the strongest immune system, either if you're a baby and your body's never really fended off that many attacks, and your immune system doesn't have the right kind of bullets, doesn't have the right kind of ammunition and the know-how to defeat those kind of viruses. That's why they get flu shots. And older people, who the reason they have to go and get flu shots is because they are older and their immune systems aren't as strong as they used to be. But in your age, for most of it, is you guys can endure the cold for 1 or 2 days and you'll be fine. But sometimes it takes a little bit longer than that, and other times you get lucky and it just passes right through. You don't even feel the effects of it. So that is pretty much all the basic stuff on viruses. We're going to go a little bit deeper in class tomorrow because I have all of you guys presenting, or if you're watching this on Friday or Saturday, we already presented and we went over some other stuff. So this should mostly just be a review. So remember, the vocab words that we covered in this were virus, and it's a tiny non-living particle that enters and reproduces inside of a cell. We have the host, which serves as the place for the virus to live, and it uses that to multiply itself. And it acts as, the other vocab word is a parasite, and as a parasite it actually harms the host cell as it lives there. And then we talked about vaccine, and how vaccines are either a dead or weakened version of that virus, and they're given to people in order to build up an immunity to whatever that specific virus is. So if you understand those concepts, then you should be pretty set on viruses. And again, we'll be talking a little bit more. And if you have any other questions about viruses, I am really fascinated by viruses. I really like to learn about them and the different kinds that deal with humans or other types of animals or organisms. So again, feel free to email me at bmiles@somersetnlv.org, and I'll shoot you something about it. And I'm even thinking about putting up another podcast about viruses because they are just so fascinating. They won't really be on the test, but it'll just be something you guys can learn about because I noticed that you guys seem to like it quite a bit too. So again, it's been great doing this with you guys, and until next time, I'll see you in class.